Hello you guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. So I'm gonna give you guys another I don't know if it's necessarily tips, but just information on my breastfeeding experience and journey and all of that good stuff. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, share, subscribe, and comment. At least give it a thumbs up, you feel me? At least a thumbs up, at least. So when it comes down to breastfeeding, my son was born at 35 weeks. When he was born, his mouth was so small, and my nipple was larger. So when it came down to breastfeeding him, he had a little bit of a difficult time, not really latching, but staying latched, because it takes more energy to, you know, like suck the milk out and stuff like that. So what we ended up doing was I basically just hand expressed the milk out, then spoon fed, and I'll like insert something somewhere so that you guys can see what I'm talking about for people who've like absolutely never heard of that. And then once he got, I want to say like maybe a day or two old, maybe a day, I think he was a day old, is when I got a manual hand pump, and I pumped the milk and put it into a needle bottle and gave it to him that way, because I was able to get a needle bottle with a nipple that was maybe this big in comparison to my nipple. It was easier to get the milk out the bottle, if that makes sense. Like, it takes a little more energy and effort for them to get it out of the breast. So that's what worked for us that first, I want to say maybe the first week or two. But I didn't like that it was making him so gassy, because it was those Similac nipples, and they claimed to be slow flow, but they were not. So the milk was coming out a lot faster, and it also was allowing a lot more air to get to him, so he was really gassy. So I ended up switching him to Tommy Tippy bottles. But let's see. When I started breastfeeding that first week, every time I breastfed or pumped, it felt like I was starving. I was so hungry. I was super thirsty. And I didn't know that breastfeeding takes that type of, I don't know, I guess nutrients from you to where you feel like you've been deprived or something like that. Like, I didn't know that. So I would recommend, if you're gonna breastfeed, make sure that you are eating or at least snacking regularly. That's what I did. I didn't really have much of an appetite after that first week. The first week after delivering my son, it felt like I was starving, like I hadn't ate in ages. But after that week, it was like I had to make myself eat. So my breast supply ended up being really high. Like, even now, I've donated breast milk. I've used breast milk for my son's baths. I've cooked with it. I've used it on me and his skin. And I still have breast milk stored in my mother's house. I have about 5 gallon freezer bags or Ziploc bags of milk in my own freezer. I have so much milk. I recommend getting really familiar with your breasts. Get really familiar with them, because I ended up getting mastitis. I did not know that that we had milk ducts all over the entire breast. For some reason, I believe that it was just like here. I didn't know they were like all under your arm and up under the breast and in the inside part of it. I had no clue. So I ended up getting mastitis on my the inner part of my breast. And it was not fun. When I got it, it felt really sore on that breast, but because I've never breastfed, I've never had a child, I didn't know that that wasn't normal. I thought that it just was my breast adjusting to producing so much milk, because they would get really big. Even with me pumping all the time, nursing, everything, it was like they would fill up. And that's what would even kick me into like, dang, you sure you don't want to eat? You sure? Like, let me try to pump then, because they would swell up and get really engorged. So then I started having like these like night sweats and my body was sore. I wasn't feeling good at all. I started feeling dizzy. And initially I'm thinking maybe this is that hormonal shift that everyone was talking about after you have the baby, that little crash. Nope. So I ended up telling my husband about it, like, hey, I'm really, really not feeling well. And after a day or two, I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna have to call somebody. So he recommended that I call the midwives, and as soon as I told them how I was feeling, they were like, yeah, you need to get this antibiotic and, you know, have your husband go pick it up, preferably today. Just a whole bunch of stuff. So don't be like me and get mastitis. Now I prefer to use the manual hand pump rather than the electric pump, because I believe that I get more milk in a shorter amount of time with the manual pump. And I'm also able to express my breast simultaneously while using the hand pump because you're more in control. When I use the electric one, I like to use my my nursing bra like this, because this over here allows the it to be handless. Like, you don't have to hold it while you pump, so I can still do what I need to do, be on my phone, deal with the baby, all kind of stuff. However, when you go to try to hand express while that milk is coming out with the electric pump, it's like it'll break the latch. So it's almost counterproductive. So like I said, I prefer to use the manual hand pump because I'm able to keep that latch on there, that seal or whatever, and express the milk simultaneously. So in order for me to completely empty my breast with the electric pump, I usually have to take it off, express, put it back on, and things like that. But with the manual one, I could just keep going and just express as I go. Which leads me to get on a schedule. Definitely schedule your pumping. I actually should have said that before or right after discussing the mastitis. Schedule your pumping regardless of if your baby is sleeping or not, because that's the issue that I ran into, and I also believe it's another contributing factor to me getting mastitis. Because when my son was born, and even sometimes now, he'll sleep like 4 hours straight. Like, especially when he was born. When he was first born, that first 2 weeks, he was not an every 2-hour baby. Like, that's how they make it in the movies. That's how the doctors tell you. They say, oh, your baby's going to want to eat every 2 hours, maybe 3 if you're lucky. Not mine. Mine was going 4, sometimes to 5 hours. And at first it was really concerning, but we were still in the hospital at the time. So when they were doing his glucose, he was completely fine. All of his levels were good from, I guess, the last time that he ate. And when I say halfway through him sleeping, I would just start feeling really, 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 really full, which is why I believe I have that type of milk supply, maybe because maybe I was pumping for longer than what he would have actually been eating. So maybe that's a part of it. I may do another video to just give you guys, like, for people who maybe be struggling with their milk supply or something like that, I'll put in the things that I ate, the things that I drank, and just some little stuff that I did that I believe helped increase my milk supply. And then we'll go from there. Give this video a thumbs up, share, subscribe, and comment.